Hello there, friends. I had the best conversation for this episode. It's with a friend of mine named Mars. We met on Twitter. We got to talking on a particular tweet where he was asking about the relationship of finding purpose and meaning with a being outside yourself, whether that be God or something else. Can you have a meaningful pursuit of life without such things? So we went back and forth a little bit on that tweet, and I messaged him the next day asking if we could discuss more on this topic on my channel. And he said yes. And I'm just so happy that he said yes, because this was such a meaningful conversation for me. I couldn't stop smiling through the whole chat because I just loved it. This is a discussion between people who are seeking to understand. And I think that we need that. We need more of that. So anyway, hope you enjoy this chat. As always, let me know what you think. If you think that I'm doing conversations worth paying attention to, I would absolutely love it if you would do me the honor of subscribing. And I have to mention, please check out Mars's YouTube channel / podcast. It's called Transbra, and it's got some really cool conversations. I will make sure to link that in the description. So without further ado, here is my chat with Mars. Hey, Mars.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. We're having a chill vibe. That's what we're
Yes, we are.
in this space.
Chilling in the pandemic for sure. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. How is it? Let's go there. How's it been for you?
Um, honestly, I personally haven't been affected as far as like my job, so that's good. And then I've gotten a lot of time off from my job, so I'm honestly kind of happy about that.
Okay.
Can't complain. So, but yeah, no, the vibe here, I mean, I'm in Kansas, so it's not like a big city where I'm at. So it's pretty, I mean, it's not bad. So
You're like
I've had a lot of time
it's
to
fine.
YouTube.
Do you
Yeah.
mind being by yourself? Like, are you
What's that?
are you by yourself, and like, are you loaning it out there?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess you mean like as far as like family?
Yeah. Like, are you seeing? Like, do you have any people who are
Yeah,
like, we've
yeah,
quarantined, so we
actually,
know we're good to see each other, or no?
uh, no, well, I mean, aside from coworkers, yeah, no, my family lives in Florida, so I'm over
Oh.
here. Yeah, I guess that's probably yeah, I've had a lot of, I'm sure you have too, like a lot of reflecting on way too much time to reflect. So yeah, I've definitely, I've definitely sat here thinking, I think I'm in the wrong place because it's not great to be far from family, obviously in a situation like this. Like,
I think
yeah, yeah, so
so.
it's
I think
odd.
that that's why we're gonna go into this conversation we're
Mhm.
going to go into because of the reflecting.
Yeah, no, for sure. I've thought about it, especially that question. I've thought about it so much, and I'm like, geez, like, and I think it's just because this moment, it's overwhelming. It's a weird time. I mean, it's just bizarre. Like, you know what I mean?
Never
It makes
had
you feel
this
like
happen.
yeah, exactly. So,
Okay, so for I guess for to say what the tweet in question that we're referring to. So you
yeah.
tweeted something out about finding purpose without a higher power or something along those lines. Like, can you find
Hmm.
the purpose without religion, or is it through religion that you find purpose? It was kind of a chicken and egg question you had.
Yeah,
Do you remember
right.
that?
Sort of, yeah. It was like, yeah, because that's something I think about a lot. Like, especially, nowadays, I just feel like people are so focused on negativity and especially on social media. Like it's like it almost seems like does anybody have a purpose in life, or are they just like angrily like tweeting back and forth, and so then I mean, I reflect on me, and I'm like, I mean, I was raised Catholic, but it wasn't like, I was raised Catholic, but it was never like extreme or anything. So it's one of those things where I was raised with a religion, and as I grew older, I kind of disconnected, but I always had like a higher power, or I believed in God basically. And I don't know, the older I got, I guess, like I see religion as like there's issues in it, so then that turns me off. But then I'm like, But at times like these, especially, you know, like during the pandemic, you find yourself, I think everybody would relate, you find yourself in some way like, I mean, maybe you don't want to call it praying, but you know, you do find yourself wanting to connect to like something. So it's like that kind of becomes a question, like in those times, like what do you turn to, and also like in life, as far as finding purpose, you know, is your purpose just, you know, maybe being a mom, which is fine, or and I wasn't asking you, but I'm just in general, like,
Yeah.
you know, what drives you to like do good or whatever, be a decent human being, that sort of thing.
Right. Oh, so for context purposes, can we
Mhm.
you mentioned about being raised Catholic. Can we go back and do a little bit of a, I guess, sort of bio on you, just so that we can see like where you're
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
from with these questions? There's kind of two spaces I want to kind of cover just so that
Mhm.
the audience has an understanding of
Yeah,
where you're
yeah.
coming from. So
Gotcha.
so there's two things, like where are you coming from in like the cultural space.
Yeah.
So I mean your YouTube channel and podcast is called like Trans Bruh, so I mean there's
Yeah.
a bit of like a
Gotcha.
like that's like a bit of a
Yeah,
suggestion there,
totally.
like that's a clue.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah, and then I also want to know
So-
about like like your spirituality or
yeah.
religion, whichever, you know,
Mhm.
or both, or because they're kind of different things, sometimes the same, sometimes different.
Yeah.
What you grew up with as well in that space. So if you could, so those are the two things I think would be interesting to cover.
Okay. Correct me if I lose track, by the
Yeah.
way. So, I guess, yeah, I mean, I was raised Catholic, and also, you know, growing up, well, actually, I don't want to get, there's no need for like a a super lifetime bio there.
Well, I honestly,
So,
we have time. Like whatever you want to go, wherever your directions.
no, it's good. It's, I don't want to get all
Okay.
cringy.
Okay.
No, but basically, so yeah, I'm a trans man, which means I was born female, and at some point in my life transitioned, uh, you know, to live as a man in society or whatever. But so basically, obviously, that does play a part in me struggling with religion, because from my perspective today, especially, I feel like there's a lot of acceptance, and I mean, it's gotten way better with like LGBT as a whole, but like the only problem I typically see is with people that are a little extreme with their religion. And I mean, I believe in religious freedom, or is that, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's fine. There's just people, when you use religion in a harmful way is more what I'm directly talking about. Like I don't need somebody to like fully agree with everything that I'm doing or my lifestyle, or celebrate it, but more so religion used to harm like LGBT people is like my issue. Also, yeah. So basically, yeah, I grew up, you know, in a very traditional Hispanic family. I'm Cuban,
Okay.
so yeah, that plays, you know, that plays a big part in like the fact that I, even though like I have a hard time embracing a religion, I also still believe in a God, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of my upbringing, and yeah, I don't know if that answered your question. I don't
No, it
want to
does.
just go off on a
It
tangent.
does. I kind of want to go into you being Cuban and from that perspective, because
Mhm.
it feels to me like in, I want to say Latino, but then the X is coming in my like Latinx. Latino.
Oh God, don't don't do that.
I know, you're like, F that, I know.
That's
But
so horrible.
I know,
Yeah.
like, I know you're not like about the.
No, 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 you're fine. It's just the fact that your brain even goes there. It's like, ah,
That's
they've
so
really
sad.
ruined it.
No, I know, because it's like
It's
I feel like with Latino slash Latina slash Latinx, it's the one that the X comes up with the most, more
yeah,
from in my brain, more than women or men, and it's probably because
yeah,
of Twitter. It's all Twitter's fault.
yeah,
That's the one
probably.
that I
Yeah,
see it in my
totally.
head. The X. Oh darn. Anyway, so in
Yeah.
the like I'm just gonna say Latino to cover the entire
Mhm.
group. So like in those Latino cultures, it is so ingrained in like the Catholicism is part of like who they are, like culturally. It feels like,
Yeah.
right? Like, did
Yeah.
you? So you
Yeah.
grow up in? Did you grow up in Florida?
I did actually. Actually, to be clear, yeah, I grew up in Miami, Florida. I technically was born in Puerto Rico, but I grew up in Miami, Florida, and I always just say I'm Cuban because honestly, every time I say all of it, people get confused, and like to me, like I vibe with Cuba basically because my whole family's Cuban.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm Cuban, so yeah. But I would agree that Hispanics for sure. Yeah, I mean they're pretty. That definitely plays a big part in that culture. Just traditions and religion for sure. So I mean it's hard to not grow up having some kind of connection to a god because it's kind of a part of your you growing up. So
Can you give examples of some of the traditions, like the mix, the cultural slash religious bits where they're really quite mixed together that maybe say like typical like white families in the United States wouldn't know?
um, like examples of religion or
The
just the
sort of
culture.
the it's the mix of both that you see in Hispanic cultures, like you said. Like I'm thinking
Hmm.
like in Mexico, the Day of the Dead. Like it's religious, but
Oh,
it's
okay,
it's
gotcha.
is it Catholic? I don't know. Is it
I
but I don't want to assume that I
Yeah,
don't know if
yeah.
you guys
I
have the
don't.
Day of the Dead.
Yeah,
So
no, we don't.
okay, okay,
We don't. No. Yeah, no, we don't. I don't think we have anything like that. We just have. I mean, there's like extra days, for Christmas. There's extra holidays that are for like a Spanish god or something. But again, like I'm sorry, I don't really follow it too much
really?
to know. But that's pretty much it. Like,
Wait, what's the Spanish god? I want to know.
well, sorry, I don't know if I phrased that wrong. I feel like if anybody watches this, they're gonna be no, but like basically, there's like there's Christmas, there's Christmas Eve. You celebrate that, obviously, and then like I believe it's sometime around early January that there's another day specific to. I really just don't want to shoot myself in the foot here,
Okay, okay, so
but basically, let's say it's specified towards religion that is tied to like the culture that I grew up in,
okay, okay,
plus Catholic, being Catholic and all. So
okay,
yeah,
okay,
which I don't, yeah, which I don't think that I could be wrong. I don't think that maybe like in an American white family, whatever. I don't know that that type of Catholic would have the same days probably. So,
right.
so I mean there is a difference there. Um, I don't know if I answered your
No,
question.
you did. No, no, no. Like this is
Yeah.
we're flowing. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, just because I do think that coming from a space, I mean, where religion is tied in the flow of life, as opposed to growing up in. Again, it depends on where you're at in the States, because I know in like the Bible
Yeah. Yeah.
Belt,
Hmm.
it can be part of a way of life too. But I you see those spaces, these sort of atheist spaces where there's so many ex-evangelicals or ex-Christians
Yeah.
who are like, oh, and I saw how I had the wool pulled over my eyes and blah blah blah. But I don't know
Mm.
that there's a lot of
See.
Latino or Hispanic people. I've not seen that
Hmm.
from them,
That's interesting.
right?
Now I'm thinking about like I mean, there probably is.
I'm
Probably
sure.
not as, I guess not as often. Probably not as much as, yeah. I'm thinking about it now. I mean, for example, I've had two episodes on my show about religion. One was a lesbian that is, still religious, and it was like a positive message,
Cool.
or a positive episode. And the other episode was people that are LGBT and felt like they were brainwashed by religion, and that
Okay.
one was like a negative episode. And I mean, yeah, they were both they grew up in the United States. They're not Hispanic, so that is an interesting point, actually. Yeah, I will say like okay, so like even still like I've had conversations with atheists this year, and even in talking to them, like some of what they say makes sense, but I don't think personally, and maybe this is where I differ from other people because of my upbringing, but I don't think there's ever going to be a like groundbreaking moment of like, oh my God, like now I'm atheist. Like, you know what I mean? I don't think that would ever happen with me. So I can't relate to that. Like I could relate to maybe feeling a little bit more disconnected by looking into religion a little bit and feeling, I don't know, maybe betrayed or hurt because, I'm a trans man or whatever. But
Right.
and also because some things don't make sense in the Bible, but I don't think I would ever have a moment where I'm just like, I'm done with religion and, atheism is for me. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. That no, you are always answering my questions, so don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I'll stop asking.
I don't know. I understand. This is the unknown.
Yeah.
Like this is
Okay.
a space.
Gotcha.
Like I said, I mentioned to you, I don't really go here a ton unless it's someone who is like a professional, like a pastor, you know. So that's
Yeah, yeah,
why I'm
totally.
like,
I
no,
gotcha.
this is, I
Yeah.
want to explore, I want to use my channel. I've decided if with people who are willing to explore
Yeah.
like spirituality and or religion, and people who are open to be like, I don't know, and not just be like, here's
Yeah.
reasons why God doesn't exist because he's not falsifiable. Like that to me is very
Yeah.
boring.
Yeah, no, I do love going down rabbit holes, so
Yeah,
you're good.
good.
I get it.
I do too. Okay,
Yeah.
so what is it that makes you not ever want to close that door of no God certainty, no God here?
I think I don't know. I just feel like just having a sense of faith in things it just makes sense. I don't know what it is. I mean, I will say like I had a conversation with my mom like a few months ago, and I actually I've never really talked about religion with her a whole lot, and I don't even remember how this came about. But what she said essentially made a lot of sense to me. But basically, she was saying, it sounds like even to her, religion, sometimes it doesn't make sense, and she doesn't agree. She doesn't agree with all of it. I think is what the gist of it. Like she doesn't agree with all of it, but she essentially said, it's just important to, have beliefs or something like believe in a higher power. Prayer is not a bad thing, things like that. And I'm like, I don't know. I guess I took away from that. I'm like, I feel like on some weird level, I'm vibing with my mom right now like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I don't know. I think that's the biggest thing. Like again, like just kind of reflecting on the pandemic right now. Like it obviously in a moment like this, especially I don't live in the same state as my family. So I mean, yeah, there's initially I was like a little bit nervous, and I'm like, I can't be there with them. So of course there was moments where I was like thinking of God. Maybe I didn't say God, but I definitely was thinking of something or somebody greater than me, to comfort me or whatever, bring me peace in a moment of like, I don't know, feeling nervous about the outcome of the future. You know what I mean? So
It's hard to articulate because that's what
yeah,
religion does. It articulates.
right. But here's the other thing too, where it gets me. I'm like, do I feel like this because I grew up Catholic, and maybe it's just like, a seed that's been planted, and I just can't get rid of it. You know what I mean? Like, so that's kind of where I'm just like, do I feel obligated to feel like this because I feel guilt? Because if I don't feel like this, it's just wrong. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not sure. So yeah, it's like tricky.
Yeah, yeah. No, it is. I mean, that's why of all of the intellectuals I've been following the past few years,
Mm,
I'd say like Jordan Peterson is the one who I could relate with the most because he's the one who's most open to in that
yeah.
intellectual space to like
Mm,
he had the hardest time answering about God and his belief. His first
yeah.
answer is I act as if he exists. And it's kind of like what
Mm,
you're saying. Like you're like, well,
yeah.
you
Yeah.
kind of that's
Yeah.
kind of what you're embodying. You act as if he exists.
Yeah. R- Yeah, actually, I didn't think about that. I do like Jordan Peterson, but yeah, no, I guess that's. But again, like I feel like part of it is probably because of my upbringing. But yeah, I guess because logically, like I mean, I don't really have the evidence, so that's what bothers me,
Right.
But at the same time, I mean, I don't know exactly how I got here or who created this world, but whatever created it, be it a person or not, or like there's still some sort of power greater than me. So I guess I just choose to have faith and believe something beyond me because that, for whatever reason, it gives me balance and just I don't know, it adds something good to my life.
Mm.
And when I don't have that, I don't know, relationship with whatever, it doesn't, I don't feel the same. And I don't know if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it does, but it's hard to articulate when you don't use religious language.
That's
Right?
yeah, I know exactly. That's the yeah. Well, I'm trying to like I'm not trying to. I don't know. I don't want to also say like God because like I know some people might watch this and they don't believe in God, and also I'm just in that weird place where like I mean it doesn't bother me to say God, but I'm just in a very odd place where I'm like I'm torn between is it a person or is it just like I don't know a force greater than me or something like that?
I
Like
was
what am
gonna
I
say the
actually?
Force. I was gonna say the Force, like
Yeah,
from Star
yeah, Star
Wars.
Wars. Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
what were you
I don't.
saying?
No, it's fine. I thought the same thing. I was like, that doesn't. Yeah. So I don't know. It's just like one of those things. I mean, I've been messing with the idea of like, well, maybe I should open up the Bible and start. Maybe I could read like. I mean, I've actually never actually read the whole thing, so maybe I should read the Bible, or maybe I could pick up a different religion and see what I get out of that. And obviously, because we're in the middle of a pandemic, I'm thinking all this, but I don't know if I'm actually gonna do it. I just, I'm like, I'm over here thinking maybe I should start going to church again.
Yeah,
So, but
that's no, but let's
it's,
like that's so interesting that you have
yeah,
these community based
mm,
thoughts almost.
yeah, it is interesting. I don't know why that is. I mean, yeah, I've been trying to like figure out what. I mean, because my life is pretty good. Like, it's not like I'm. I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with where I'm at in life, maybe, but
Okay.
it's bizarre. Like I can't see myself actually going to church every Sunday. But just the thought of, I don't know. I guess maybe I feel like would it be because the thing is when you're raised with a religion, which I don't think is necessarily bad, unless you're doing it in an extreme way. I feel like it doesn't like it could be good, but it doesn't give you the opportunity of exploring that and finding it on your own. So now that I'm an adult, I guess in a way maybe I wouldn't mind revisiting religion, but doing it like on my own terms and like finding whatever religion I feel like more connected to in a way. So maybe that's where I'm going.
Mm. Do you have any memories of how going through the Catholic Church as a kid and then examples of, say, how you were treated like post transition? Did you have any experience with that? Did you go to church at all?
No, no, I don't have an experience with that. I like, are you talking about like a negative experience maybe?
Well, I don't want to like be leading you, but
No,
like your experience, your interaction with the religion you were raised with, because you mentioned how in the thread that we went back and forth on Twitter, you mentioned about why you feel. I think you said something like along the lines of being somewhat jaded about that specific space because of how the church has
Mhm.
treated LGBTQ people. So
Yeah, I think when I said that, I meant it more so just from observation and conversation I've been having on my channel.
okay,
Personally, I never really dealt with that. I guess maybe the only moment, and I wasn't transitioning at that time, but when I went through, I think it was my communion class. I know that there was a moment there where they were teaching or they were reading a verse or something about same-sex marriage or whatever same-sex couples like it being wrong, and I do recall like feeling like it's really uncomfortable and I don't agree, and you know what I mean, like
yeah.
I had that moment, but besides that, nothing. It's more so just observing, because politically like it's just such a weird time, and I feel like I wasn't really prepared to get into politics. I'm not trying to change the conversation,
Oh no,
but
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
also yeah, but also just a lot of it does is from observation and like people on the left who have become a little nuts, let's say, and then people on the right that are more open-minded. But it seems like the people on the right that are maybe not open-minded typically are very religious, um, which is my issue with that. And also, I think I trailed off, but essentially, what I was trying to get at is LGBT people. Okay, well, because I'm trans, sorry, I feel like I've just jumped three places.
No, 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 no.
So here's the thing, my thing that I've been trying to talk a lot about, and it upsets people sometimes, is detransitioners and people that transition for the wrong reasons. And so one thing I have noticed is I'm not saying everybody that's forced on with religion ends up transitioning or detransitioning. That's not my point, but it is kind of interesting that there's been conversations I've had where it definitely seems like perhaps forcing religion on somebody isn't going to stop them from transitioning or detransitioning, but it is causing them pain, and like you're basically screwing somebody up and delaying the process of them growing up and exploring something that they maybe won't have to do or will still do, but I don't know if that makes sense. So this is all like deeply connected. Yeah, there's like a lot of topics right now that are just like really connected for me while I'm trying to revisit religion. If that, you know what I
Okay,
mean?
okay. So
Yeah,
so if God is real,
yeah,
he won't change,
right.
and regardless of what's happening here. So why do you think
Yeah,
these things are you're coming to look at these like we change? Like why
yeah,
do you
yeah.
think that's coming up
Um,
for you? These connections between.
I guess because I'm trying to personally understand why some people end up detransitioning or transitioning for the wrong reasons. I mean, I had
Okay,
somebody. I had somebody on my show that essentially said they had internalized homophobia,
right.
which came from a religious upbringing. And
Okay.
so I guess I'm trying to revisit religion while also hoping that, I don't know, maybe if I engage with more religious people, they'll just try to understand that, being extreme is not going to help. And then at the same time, trying to figure out what God means to me.
I'm gonna go there. So there, it's sort of like the who did well because
Yeah.
I
No, go
have to
for
do
it.
this. Yeah. So there's a time where like Jesus asks his disciples, "Who do they say that I am?" And they say,
Yeah.
"Well, some say you're John the Baptist, come back.
Mhm.
Others say you're a
Yeah.
prophet." And then he says, "Who do you say that I am?" You're Catholic, you should know this. It's a very important verse. And then
Am I
Peter.
not?
Okay, okay.
Sorry.
Peter. I do have a degree in this. So anyway,
Oh, you do?
I have a
Oh,
Christian studies degree. Yeah, yeah. So I like studied theology and Christian history. So I'm kind of into it, but like
yeah.
fully on. But and
So
then
you're Christian.
yeah, yeah. Did I
Oh,
not make
gotcha.
that clear?
Yeah,
Wow, that is a big
I didn't
misstep
know.
for me.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Whoops. Well, maybe I
It's
was
all
just
right.
so unbiased
Yeah. No,
that
it's
I
fine.
allowed you to come out and explain what you wanted to say without, making you swayed by my beliefs. We'll
Gotcha.
say that was
Yeah.
it. Yeah, but
Mm,
Peter says it's when his name is changed from Simon, which means like pebble, to Peter, which means rock. Peter says to Jesus, "You are the Christ or the Messiah," depending on which, if you're looking at Greek or Hebrew. "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." And Jesus says, "On that rock I will build my church, and your name is now Peter, the rock." The rock.
mm,
Anyway, so that's the basis of Peter being the first pope. Sorry, I did air
mm.
quotes because I'm not Catholic.
No, no, you're fine.
But that
Sorry.
but because he's on that rock, they're like, it's the
Yeah.
Peter's the rock it's built on. Anyways, for a little
Hmm.
theology out there for you folks.
No, it's
But
I didn't know. I
yeah,
didn't know
yeah.
you had a degree in
Yeah, yeah.
that.
Well, yeah, I don't
um.
talk about it a lot because it's not. I'm kind of in the cultural space rather than the religion space. But yeah, but Jesus, I think, and the Protestant side of things thinks that Jesus was like, yeah, that's you calling me the Christ. That's who I am. I'm now like letting you all in on my
Yeah.
purpose, my mission here. So
Mhm,
but you have to ask yourself that. Well,
mhm,
who do others say that I am? Well, you're talking about people, how they're treating LGBT people, and
mhm.
you who what you've heard negative perspectives, but um and you it sounds like you haven't had to you've had a your perspective from your own experience doesn't seem too negative from how it sounds.
No, it's not. No, yeah, it's not negative.
But you have to ask yourself, like, okay, well, who do I say
Mhm.
that he is?
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing though too is like that I thought of. It's like regarding religion. There's so many different religions. So which one is right? Which one should I believe? Because it doesn't matter what religion I go to. Everybody's like, this is the true one, and so that's another thing I thought of. I don't know if you want to answer that. Like,
Oh
which one
gosh,
is? How do you?
I don't have
Well,
an answer.
not sorry. To be clear, yeah, no, I'm not gonna put you on the spot and
No, no,
tell you
no,
which
I
one is
can't.
right because obviously
I probably should venture.
you can if you want, but it's more so of how do you find maybe instead of asking which one is right, how do you find the right religion for you? What is it for example, being a Christian, right? What was it about that particular religion that drew you in, if anything at all?
Well, I mean, being raised that way for sure. Like that's how I was raised.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the
Okay.
thing is that's why we have to work it out because
Hmm.
it's like that's why. Well, I studied it because I love the space. Like I love looking
Hmm.
into what is this thing that we call the study of God. Like that's theology, you
Yeah.
know. Like
Right. Yeah.
and I have been sort of going through like the when we talked about that dark night of the soul. I brought that up.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
You did.
do you
That's
remember
right.
that?
You were the one. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was the I
Yeah.
know it gets it jumbled up sometimes when you're like someone said something about that to me and the thing sticks but you don't remember the person. I have that all the time. But it's a sort of
Mm.
when I think about God, like God isn't difficult in the sense that's not the bit. It's the specific bit of Jesus.
Yeah.
Because you could say God and many
Mhm.
people from many nations would come to you and be like, oh yeah, sure, no problem. What do you mean by God?
Yeah.
That might be a little bit different, you know, but like a thing, an
Mhm.
entity, a, a knowledge or a benevolent father or like whatever. But you know, we see
Yeah.
so many similarities between all the spaces, all these different religions in the world anyway. Looking at mythology, there's like Sky Dad and Earth Mom. Like,
Mhm.
you know, like there's
Yeah.
things, there's
Yeah.
so many similarities. And that's I like the connectedness. Like I like that.
Hmm.
That makes me feel like, okay, these are different versions maybe of looking for and ordering out what's out there. And but I do
Hmm.
feel like it's specific because there's the whole thing of logos and Jesus being like the word and in the beginning and the infinite, like God is infinite. Here's how it currently is if you want to know where I'm at with
Hmm.
why Christianity.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, you are interviewing me, so I will turn it back to you
Sorry.
after. No, no, it's not your fault. But you know, I think this is a conversation I think should be
Mhm.
had, and I want to be brave and I want to go there. So that's why I wanted to
Go
talk to
there.
you about
Let's
it.
go.
So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
to me the idea of the infinite God is really coming into my view. That's what I've been wrestling with because Christianity is like we have the answer. It's this. A lot of other religions do that too,
Hmm.
but where I'm at, it's this. And I
Hmm.
am like, well, if God is infinite, how can we know him? Even if we know him
Yeah.
a little, it's still well, if you know infinity, it literally goes on forever.
Hmm.
So and but
Yeah.
that's the God I believe in is that he is infinite and he is indescribable. Like there's worship songs called indescribable. So that being said, I with regards to like Jesus being the logos, the word made flesh, the infinite, the
Hmm.
transcendent interacting with the material, the word being made flesh and dwelling among us. That's what like light bulbs just go off and I'm like, okay, that's how it had to happen
Hmm.
for us to understand God. He had to come to
Yeah.
us. So
Gotcha.
that's it.
Hmm.
And there are other religions
Actually,
where God comes down. So I, you know,
yeah.
I'm not I other people,
Yeah.
other conversations that we can go there. But that's for me. That's where I'm at.
Hmm.
So,
Um, when you were talking, actually, I just remembered the conversation I had with my mom. It kicked off because I think at the time, which was, I believe, maybe late last year, I was starting to think about religion, and I thought about, well, maybe I could switch and look into Christianity. And I think what I did was call my mom and ask permission, or something like that. Not permission, but like, how do you feel about this?
wait, what do you
Obviously, I
mean
can do whatever
switch?
I want.
What do you mean? Yeah, what do you
What's
mean
that?
switch though? Like from Catholicism to like
Yeah, yeah. Like
Protestantism
I was.
or
No, well, see, I don't know anything. I don't know a whole lot about religion. But essentially, what I was trying to ask is if she would be weirded out, or like if she would be okay, or how she felt about, like, let's say I don't, if I no longer believe in, like, Catholic religion, and I start looking into Christianity. I didn't specify which one because
right, right.
I wasn't sure, but that's kind of where that kicked off. and then I let it go, and then I just I had mixed emotions for a few months now, and and again I think a lot of it has to do with this situation, the pandemic, right? It's like when you feel like things are possibly gonna go bad, then and this is where I feel like most people turn to is like in a bad situation you turn to something like I mean I don't believe that nobody does because we all do it. So yeah, I guess that's where again that's why I tweeted that is because this happened and now I'm like in the middle of a pandemic and I'm like finding that like maybe I don't have to feel so raw about religion. Maybe I could look at it from a different perspective and stop letting other people's experiences or what I see convince me that it isn't for me if I haven't in fact actually given it a different chance as an adult on my own accord.
What is the word religion? Because I know you talked about how reasons maybe to stay away because of how the LGBT community's been treated by them, but apart from that, like what is religion? What about like the idea of looking into a religion maybe held you back?
Maybe held me back.
Like was there something because you said, well,
Um,
you know what, I am gonna look. Like what was it that made you like not not look until now?
Not do it. I believe it was because I started. Well, that was like what, like last year. I think it's because I started looking at atheist stuff. So it made me second guess it.
Okay.
Like videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like some of what they say makes sense, but then some of what like you say makes sense too. So I don't know. And I just overall, I'm kind of a centrist with a lot of stuff. So it always puts me in this really weird place of like I want to believe in some, I want to stick to one thing, but both sides make sense. So yeah.
I get that. I had a quite a bit of an atheist space surrounding me in well still in Twitter,
Yeah.
but then if you get
Right.
into philosophy Twitter, it kind of opens up a bit, even if it's not specifically God, but
Yeah.
it's just different
Hmm.
languages that people speak in.
Right.
People
Yeah.
speaking in atheist language. It's like a mode. It's a mode of understanding the world. And I think that
Hmm.
science is great at explaining our material world and how to build a
Yeah.
Tesla, for example. But when it comes to matters of the
Hmm.
heart and understanding what's out there beyond us, saying it's just nothing, you can say it, but it doesn't
But
make it
it,
not something,
yeah,
right?
but even atheists, one thing I've found is even they need a community. So
Mm.
you know what I mean? It's like, I mean, that's what I've encountered. It's like they need a community, be it online or, a group that they go to every week or whatever. Like they still, so I think a lot of it is, I mean, I don't want to say it's the same, but it's still similar. I mean, you don't believe in a God, but you're still in some way a community of something, if that makes sense. So, I don't know. I just feel like for me, it still always goes down to, do I want to live my life believing in God or in something beyond me? Because that's also another thing that I feel like I find important in just believing in something greater than you is I feel like it keeps you humble. That I mean, maybe that's me, but I feel like if I just believe in me, then I mean, what am I trying to say? That I'm the greatest person here on this planet, which is not true. So I feel like believing in something, it keeps you balanced somehow. I don't know if you can relate to that,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah. I'm
okay,
really connecting with you, man. Like I really, yeah.
okay,
I mean, like I said, I grew up. We didn't even call it
Mhm,
Protestant evangel. We call it evangelical. Like that's the space.
mhm.
Although now evangelicals
Yeah,
are the new fundamentalist Christians. but but I don't understand like people's view of human nature like without being like, oh,
Mhm,
we're fallen, and but everyone's fallen, and but we're made in the image of God, so
mhm.
it's like a push and a pull of like we're created
Yeah,
out of something beautiful, but we fell and we
mhm.
need to come
Right.
back into grace and whatever.
Mhm.
But people be like, no, people are basically good or basically bad without that bit. But I don't. What do you think about that? Like, what do you think about
Yeah.
human nature?
Um, like if people are good or bad, kind of.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We're going into the big questions.
Yeah, I had something and I lost it. It'll probably come back. Yeah, no, that kind of goes to like just the way that people behave nowadays. I mean, I think I want to say most people are good, but most people are lost. You know,
Oh,
and I
okay.
think a lot of it just has to do with like they have no purpose. You know, they like you can't just even though I understand like times can be tough, you can't just go home, go to work, go home, go to work. I mean that's to me that's just like how do you like what are you living for? And
Yeah.
I feel like yeah, I don't know. I feel like most people are truly trying to do good, but they're just lost. And I feel like that's probably why a lot of people sometimes turn to religion, but then you forget it when things get good, which is something I definitely I like. I know that I do that sometimes. Like I'm like, I don't think I believe in God, and then obviously a situation like this happens. I'm like, you know what? There's somebody that there's like I need to have some kind of belief system. Like maybe that would help me right now. So yeah, um, it is kind of interesting. I was gonna say something I forgot.
No,
I'll let you talk for a second. I lost.
you're like, I know you can, so just like take it away, Andrea.
Actually, this is what I was thinking of, and I lost it. Was the power of the mind versus believing in God. Basically, are things happening for a reason, or is it all consequence? And that's also something that for me I tend to think about God a lot because one thing I notice, and this is where I'm just like, is somebody vibing with me, and like, is there something greater in me that hears my thoughts and and things are happening, or is it me? Because one thing I do notice in life, and this is something that I grew up with too, is my mom would always say like be positive and never give up, and your mind is a powerful thing. What you think about could possibly happen. And I'm like, as a kid, obviously I'm just like, okay, yeah. And
Thank
as I
you.
grew older, I realized yeah, I realized like being negative, I mean, it does me no good, so I try to be more positive. And like one thing I do notice is yeah, like that is true sometimes. Like what I'm thinking of, it comes true. Like I'm not saying $1 million, obviously, because I wouldn't, I probably wouldn't even be here right now. But, there's something to like your thoughts, and so it's this question of like, the law of attraction. Like is it me attracting, or is there something greater than me that can maybe hear what I'm putting out there?
Right. Like
I
like
I feel like we
prayers.
went real.
No,
Yeah, like
it's
kind of like
good.
prayers, but yeah, something like prayers, but not necessarily because a lot of times I'm not thinking please God. Sometimes I'm just thinking I know I can make this happen, and I do. And I know people are probably going to be like, well, obviously if you just do it, but sometimes it's just a matter of like a situation that maybe I was hoping would come up and didn't, but I believe that it will come up and then it does, as an example.
Okay.
So that also, yeah. Sorry, I'm going real far
No,
down this
no,
rabbit
no,
hole. I'm
because
just,
I'm actually connecting it. No, because
yeah,
you're
yeah,
unique in that usually people who that kind of like the power of positive thinking, usually they think of it
yeah.
as a I did that. I thought it and I did it. And then when things are bad, that's when like oh, I don't know if there is a God, it's his fault. Like that's usually when God comes into
Oh
it.
well,
Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
but it's
That's
interesting that you kind of
yeah.
are
No, I don't
connecting
think.
God in that the positive side of that.
Yeah, no, that's kind of a horrible way to go about it, if I'm being honest.
It's
Yeah, no,
not
I
fair.
wouldn't do that. No, I try not to think like that. I mastered everything. I mean, maybe some things in life like I did accomplish and I can give myself credit to, but still, I feel like I don't know. It's just very interesting because honestly, like when you're very negative, just everything goes bad, right? Like it just piles up, and that's happened to me and many people. Like you're like, oh my God, what else can break? And five other things break, you know. But on the opposite side, if you're positive and you're just constantly like working towards a goal, and maybe it doesn't seem like this opportunity is going to come up, and you're like, I know that this opportunity is going to come up for me. Like I believe this will happen, and then it does. And it's one of those things where I'm like, is it when I'm positive and feeling some kind of connection to a higher power that everything goes well, or like is it just chance?
Where is the? It's like you're saying like blessings. Like where is the God? Where is
Yeah,
the
sort of.
yeah? Sorry, I'm putting words in your mouth, but I'm
No,
interpreting it.
you're fine. No,
Okay,
that makes sense. You're good.
so where's the interaction between you and like the transcendent, or you and God, or you and insert name outside of yourself here?
Yeah, no, yeah. Where is my relationship with God in those moments kind of? Is
Yes,
that where
yeah.
in those moments? I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I'm pretty sure maybe sometimes I might say I know this can happen, and maybe I mean, it's quite possible. So at times I follow it up with please God. That is possible, but not always. I don't know. I don't always try to reach out to God like all the time. So I guess in those moments, though, even though I'm not verbally saying it, I'm not saying please God, but I might say something like, and this is, obviously my thought would be like, I believe this could happen. I believe this could happen, but it'll be, I don't know how to explain this without sounding like I'm crazy or weird.
No.
But basically, it's like when you believe in God or higher power, whatever you want to call it, in those moments, even in like a moment where you're just saying to yourself like I believe this could happen, there's a very interesting, I don't know, like sort of feeling where you feel like you're saying it, but you're saying it to yourself, but you're putting it out there for whatever God you believe in can hear you. I do believe that, even though maybe in that moment I'm not intending to be like, "Can you hear me, God?" You know what I mean? But in that moment, honestly, I feel like subconsciously that's the whole point is that I believe it and I want a greater power or God or whatever to believe it too and to connect to me, if that makes
Okay.
sense.
What about on the flip side when you put whatever it is out
Mm.
there, or you're in pain and it's put out there, or whatever the supplication is, like whatever it is that you're
Oh, okay.
asking.
Like in a.
Like what
Mm.
if it doesn't happen? What if you don't hear the answer? What if you don't get the thing? Where is God in those moments
Oh, okay,
then?
good. I mean, it's not God's fault, that's for sure. No,
Okay.
when things like don't happen, it's more of just like I mean, for me personally, like I always just if something doesn't work out, I'm just like it just wasn't meant to be. Like there'll be other opportunities or something. It's not. It doesn't become a moment of like there is no God. Like I never do that because to me that's silly. Which I know a lot of people are like, that's the argument, especially a lot of atheists have is like, if there's a God, well, why do people have cancer and things like that? And
Yeah, the
but I
problem
just
of
I
evil.
don't,
Yeah, yeah.
right, yeah, yeah. But it's kind of like I don't look at God in the way of he controls and does everything, but more so, maybe there's some things that are in his power, maybe some things aren't. I mean, is that not possible?
Oh,
Um,
interesting. Sorry, I'm no,
is it
I'm
okay?
sussing out your theology here.
It's cool. No, I thought you were mocking me for a second. I was like, how bad was it?
No, no, no. Oh, no, 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 no. It's interesting. Oh goodness, I would never mock.
Okay.
No.
No, I'm just being playful. No, it's cool.
Okay. No,
Yeah.
no.
So,
No, it's interesting the
yeah.
idea
So I don't
of
know.
limitations, or is that our little limitation? It's an
It could
interesting
be.
idea. Yeah.
Maybe that's my way of making it seem more logical from my point of view. But also, I mean, to be fair, I've never believed in the kind of God that obviously sits on a cloud and looks at everything and does everything. To me,
Mm.
that's silly. I also, again, I don't necessarily know if God is a person or I don't know, a spirit or whatever you want to call it. Like, I don't know if it's actually physical, but my overall point is that I just don't believe in the concept of whoever we view as God is controlling everything. Like, I feel like some things are out of his control and some things are not. I mean, like diseases that happen. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's going to naturally happen because human beings, like we're I mean, I don't know how to put this, but obviously, like it just human beings are just. There's a word I'm looking for, but
We're
we're
flawed or
going to like
messy
get this.
or
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I was gonna say dirty, but it sounded
no,
weird. But
no,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
flawed. Let's go
essentially.
with flawed. Like we're dirty people.
Yeah, right. So I don't know. That's how I view it.
Yeah, I do get what you're saying. So, how do you feel
Yeah,
not having answers? How does it make you feel? Like you were. I mean, I know we've literally talked about like what we
yeah.
think about this
No,
entire
no.
talk, but it's still. in the question phase.
Yeah.
How do you feel about, are you okay with that? Does it make you feel like a pit in your stomach, or are you like, I'm okay not knowing?
No, I mean, obviously, I'd rather know, but I don't think
You're
I'm
like,
ever
well,
gonna know.
duh,
You know what I
Andrea. Of
mean?
course, I'd rather know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, no. I mean, yeah, it's just like I don't want to get hung up on that forever, which I feel like maybe at some point in my life I did. It's like you're just not, some things you're just not gonna know.
Okay.
But I also just don't. It's kind of like asking, do you believe in heaven or hell? And I I don't really believe in that because to me, again, from my perception, if I do in fact believe in God and I do believe that people are for the most part trying to do good or be good, well then I don't believe that when we all die, like I don't believe that God would just be like, you're bad, you're good. I feel like we would probably all end up in the same place, whatever place that is. So you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's interesting. So what happens to us when we die? What do you think?
Oh God. um,
I said I would go
okay.
there. I hope that's, if you don't, we
Yeah,
don't have to, we can
it's
stop.
cool. Not no, we can go there. I just definitely feel like people are. I don't know. To me, so I guess I don't know. I've often thought maybe it's just reincarnation, honestly,
Okay. Why?
because to me, like it doesn't make. I don't know. I guess maybe some people when we die, like we just die and that's it. But then I also feel like okay, if we believe in the concept of like everybody has like a different soul, where do they go when you die? They could either die or, I mean, you could be reincarnated and come back. And I mean, also, I guess maybe this also has to do with like having deja vu moments. Like, why does it seem like I've done this before, even though I haven't?
Hmm.
Which I mean, I don't know. That's just one thought I've had. I believe like when we die, what happens is you probably either just die and nothing happens, or maybe you could be reincarnated. But beyond that, I don't believe in anything else unless you want to
Really?
convince me of what you think. I'd be
Oh,
curious.
okay. Well, the thing is that's interesting about reincarnation
Uh-huh.
is it's not seen, it's as a good thing in Eastern religion. It's part of the
Oh, really?
suffering of living. And
Mhm.
either well, it's called like Eastern religion is a lot more cyclical than ours, where we have a more linear sense of
Yeah.
time. They have a more cyclical, and it's called like samsara, and so it's like over and over, and
Okay.
you try to get better and better, particularly in India. I'm not as familiar
Mhm.
about for Buddhism. You can
So basically, I would
it's
be
it's
tortured by
it's
living
kind of
again.
like it's, I mean, I know in the
Yeah.
West, no, but it's not just you. In the West, our Western thinking
Yeah.
is, oh, so we get another shot at this
Hmm.
amazing life. Yes, please, But for
Yeah.
them, they're looking to be like
Hmm.
liberated out of the cycle. They're looking to work
Hmm.
their way up in the caste system, up
Yeah.
up from the different castes, until if they can live a good enough life, they can reach, I
Gotcha.
believe it's called moksha, which is like their heaven. And then in Buddhism, I think it's something along the lines of like, I don't know, it's different, it's similar but it's different. I've only taken I remember this from
Yeah.
a general like world religions course like 10 years
Hmm.
ago from my
Gotcha.
degree. But you want to cease like the cessation of suffering, reaching
Yeah.
nirvana.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's when
Huh.
it's,
Yeah.
that's when you've arrived. And not lots of people
That makes
reach
sense.
nirvana. And I think they might even have like a kind of heaven and hell thing that you can kind of get reincarnated from too. So I don't, it's
Yeah.
don't quote me here. I'm not an expert on
No, no,
Eastern
you're
religion,
fine. No, that makes
but
sense though. You might have convinced me that reincarnation is probably not the best thing,
well,
so
no, but that's why we want to explore. That's why we
yeah.
want to explore
Yeah.
other faiths and
Yeah, yeah.
religions, and to understand what is it that they
Mm.
think, is this, where is that place considered good or not, or and
Yeah.
um I yeah I think with regards to, I kind of sidestepped the question. There's a book called, for like what I think about heaven, it's called The Great Divorce, and it's by C.S. Lewis. And like Christians themselves are not aligned in heaven and hell, and in Catholicism there's purgatory, And
Yeah.
so the book, that's where I'd recommend it. It's only about 100 pages, but it's called The Good
Yeah, I wrote
Divorce.
it down. I wrote it
You
down.
did, and it's actually free on. I believe it's past its time. I think I like downloaded
Yeah.
on my Apple Books. But you
I didn't
should.
know I
What?
I didn't know I would get homework. I said I didn't know I would get some homework
Ah,
done
I know.
assigned.
Oh well, that's how I roll. How many books have people given me that I'm like, yeah, yeah, I'll totally. Then I'm like, shoot, I
Yeah.
gotta look over at the list again. But yeah, it again.
Uh-huh.
But this one is short, and it looks at the idea. And I'm gonna give you a preface, otherwise you won't. I was confused, and I already knew what it was about. Like the guy, he dies. You don't see him die. He starts off standing in a line to go on
Hmm.
a bus to go up to heaven, because the space he's
Yeah.
in is it's just like a shadowy space, and people move farther away from one another the
Gotcha.
longer you're there. And like it's hell, right? But it's not the torment, Dante's Inferno, abandon all hope ye
Yeah.
who enter here style. It's like
Uh-huh.
it's just sort of kind of like this. People, like, they choose to move. You can have thoughts and you can create your house from your thought, but it's like a shadowlands, and people
Mm.
move away from each other because it's the opposite of community. So you go up in this little bus. I'm gonna try to. I take 100 years to explain things, so I'm gonna
No,
try to
you're
do
fine.
Cole's notes. No, so he goes up to heaven, sees, talks with a couple other people on the bus who get out. They have these beings that come down from like the mountains from over, and the beings are so like they have a look about them. They're like giants, and some of them are naked, but they appear as if they have clothes. Some of them have clothes, but they appear as if they're naked. It's like a sort of
Mm.
like they're complete. Is the idea, and
Yeah.
and and they're trying to be like, come with us. And then the people, we go around and look at the different individuals from the bus, and they give the reasons why they don't want to stay. And then they get back on the bus and they
Yeah.
go down and they leave. I think out of the maybe 8 profiles, maybe 1, maybe 2 stay, but most of them choose to
Mm.
go back. And the idea of it is ultimately those who choose to stay, that was purgatory where they were. And those who choose to go back, that's hell. And so I mean, he wasn't trying to,
Yeah.
it's a book to make you think. And I think I
Yeah.
gave you the premise of it because it's extremely confusing if you don't know. But
Gotcha.
it's an interesting idea, and I
Like,
kind of decided to look at this allegory as like, I think
mm.
that's what I think happens. Like, but it's so
Okay.
it's
Yeah, yeah.
this is all spitballing because no
Right,
one
yeah.
knows. It's all
Yeah.
metaphorical.
Yeah,
Do you know
yeah.
what I mean? And I think that
Yeah, no,
human pride
I
can
know.
keep us out of heaven, is what I think.
Yeah, I got you. Well, it's my fault for asking the
No,
question.
no, no, no. But like, okay, so what do you? Okay, now that I've done this spiel, my
Yeah, yeah.
theoretical
To wrap
spiel,
it up
what do you think? Well, what do you think about it? About what I said?
about what you said. I think that I think I think that makes sense though to
Yeah.
me.
I mean, you don't have
I
to agree with
now I don't
me.
know. Well, no, no, I'm not. I actually I don't like admitting when I'm wrong, so I'm not super agreeable.
Okay,
But what
okay.
you've said makes it makes sense though. Like to me, I mean, I might think over it, but to me that makes more sense. Especially knowing how humans are, like we're so selfish. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I could totally see us. We finally can get some rest, and we want to go back for more. You know, like
Right.
I could see that happening. So it makes. I mean, I'll think about it, but I mean, to me, like that makes more sense than my perception, like what I gave you first
Right. Okay. Well,
originally.
but that's why
So
we talk, and that's why I love. Like I said, it's into the unknown, and it's talking with people who aren't. I was speaking with Benjamin Boyce about this last week because I interviewed him, and I still have to get the interview out. But I actually, it'll be out by the time this one's out because I'm slow to edit. But like I was talking about how I feel like I'm off script. Sorry, this was after cameras were rolling, but I'm like, I'm off
no,
script.
you're fine.
I'm not on script anymore, Christianity wise. I'm not gonna give the
Oh,
Jesus is
okay.
the answer. Just follow him and
Yeah.
all your problems will be
Right.
solved, Like I'm not in
And I
that
think
space. And I that's why I wanted to talk with you.
yeah, no, that's good. And I honestly feel like being off like believing in religion and being off script, like to me, that not that I'm saying that you invited me here to convince me to be Christian or anything, but obviously, but obviously the way that you know approach it in that way is more appealing. If I'm curious, which at the moment I am, it's more appealing than the whole, oh well, she's obviously on script and saying what she has to say because of what she read. I mean, it makes it sound like you're kind of a phony, or you're trying to sell me something, which is not
Yeah.
like my style. Versus being open to this discourse and kind of exploring what God is, even though you have your own perception. Like that to me makes it so much more appealing than kind of the old school way of going about it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's why I think it's important to have conversations like this with people who aren't like, I know, and I'm going to convince you why. Like, and I'm fine
Mm.
to talk with
Yeah.
people like that because it's
Yeah.
a perspective. And fine to talk with people who know more about it in this sort of the journey of this space than I am. But
Yeah.
I think it's interesting for people who are okay to be like, I don't know, to kind of
Right.
talk about that with one another, to be like, I don't know. I mean, there are some things I think I know, but I'm not as clear as I used to be. And that's and
Right.
it's an odd space to be in, Mars, because
Yeah.
it's like,
It is right.
what
Yeah,
do you
100% feel
feel?
that. Yeah.
Yeah?
No, that's how I feel. I'm like, I don't know. I feel awkward about where I'm like going in life, but at the same time, like I know it's gonna be somewhere good.
Okay.
So that like it's okay to not know, but I know like exploring is gonna lead me to a good place, not a bad place. So
Right.
like that makes me feel comfortable with not knowing, I suppose.
Right.
So
Good. I think that's a good,
yeah,
it's a good place
good way to wrap it up.
yeah,
All right.
yeah, this is exactly, like, honestly, I feel like that I know that, like, you see a lot of tweets, but I feel like seeing that tweet was like, oh, this is where we need to go. Like the kismet
Gotcha.
moment
It's a
of like,
sign.
this is the right
Yeah.
one to open this
Right
discourse
on.
up with.
I almost didn't even tweet that because I was like, religion on essentially is what religion on Twitter is probably not the greatest idea. I mean, but you were like, I think you might have even been the only one that answered in a way that I thought it was interesting. I think most people were just like, I'm an atheist or whatever. I'm like, stop being so boring. Give me more. Like, so you
I
know.
love it because I'm the same. Like, stop being
So.
so boring. Stop.
Yeah, it's
Like,
like
open your
it's okay
mind.
to explore. Yeah, it's
Yes.
like it's fine if you're an atheist, but like, can you explore it a little bit with me? Like, I don't know. I'm not saying all atheists are like that, but
No, no.
in that moment, obviously that tweet, it was definitely interesting to hear your response. But thank you for inviting me, by the way.
Yes. Thank you for saying yes, because
I appreciate
it's deep territory, and I'm just so glad that you responded and you were like, yeah, let's go, let's do this.
Yeah, for sure.
So thank you,
It
Mars.
was fun. I was nervous, but it was fun. Thank
Good.
you.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, again, this is the unknown, so who's
Yeah.
not nervous?
Right.
Okay.
I
Thanks.
appreciate
So
you.
I'll see you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Bye.